very useful for actors for whom we're often trying to take what they think is an idea that lives here and have it live in the whole body, and to be driven and led by different things.
Let's go back now to that thing that you mentioned earlier. Tripartite Soul, is that?
Tripartite.
Partite, was it? Tripartite Soul. Tell me about that. Go into that a bit more.
Right. So we've been playing with this in the Shakespeare Ensemble in our training this year. And I had a wonderful 3-day Zoom workshop, a movement workshop.
On Zoom.
Zoom movement workshop with Mary Conway, who is a master movement teacher and a master clown as well, who lives in the United States. And because of COVID, silver lining there was she offered these Zoom workshops. So I'm going to talk about the idea of the tripartite soul, because we'll be a talking head today. But imagine experiencing this physically, right? So it wasn't just about sitting, and this is how we do it in the company. Don't sit the actors down and go, here's the theory. We explore the theory, but we actually begin with a bodily exploration, then talk a bit about the theory, and then go back into a bodily exploration with the intention of actually inhabiting what it might be like to have this belief, which the Elizabethans did. Okay, so the soul. A lot of people are like, it doesn't exist. A lot of people are like, what is this soul thing? Is it immortal? Is it unchanging? How many are there? Is there reincarnation? Do I have one? Am I going to hell? All those questions about the soul. It might be easy to think of it that I think the Elizabethans really talked about the mind. But for them, the soul, and if you say to someone, where is your soul? Where does it live in your body? Point to it. Some people might point here, some people might point here. I don't know, some people might point there, I don't know. But the Elizabethans would have told you that the soul has 3 houses or 3 parts. Or some people might say there are 3 souls, but that's not quite right. It's that your essence, who you are, your spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, that inescapable thing, is made up of 3 parts, hence tripartite, and it has 3 houses. So I'm going to forget the names. Oh no, I think I got it. There's Intellectuas facultas. Oh no, that's only part of, I think. There's a part that lives up here, right? Huh? Part of your soul lives in your head. Part of it lives in your heart. And that's intellectus is this one. Sorry, intellectus. This is anima, right? Your heart. And the one that they said lives in your liver, but I'm going to call it gut, that's naturalis facultas. And they're all responsible for different things. So naturalis facultas is the drives, the urges.
The natural faculties.
Yeah, exactly. Natural faculties. And this is like procreation, power, hunger, those sorts of things. Good old anima is so this is desire, in a sense, down here. Yep. You can't see the screen here. Oh, God. Yep. Here is more like what we think of as, heart.
Yep.
And that is things like compassion and love and empathy and those things. And here is the intellect, right? And this, in turn, was broken for Elizabethans into 3 parts: the wit, the will, and the other one. Reason. So reason often has to negotiate between the wit and the will. So but those are all up here. And one of the things you can do is to think about the metaphors that we have in whatever language you happen to speak that involve the lower part of the body, like guts. He's got guts. He's gutless. Spleen, someone has spleen, that gives me the shits. All of that stuff. Cockhead, things like that, all lives in that part. What about here? Well, of course, heartfelt, heartless, but even things like a hearty meal. Interesting that that's not about the gut, right? Because it's a meal that pleases this part of your body. Or your being. And then you think about all the head, and the metaphors, and they start to tell you sort of, they're kind of left over in the language from this tripartite understanding. And I got really fascinated. Well, I find it really interesting, very useful for actors for whom we're often trying to take what they think is an idea that lives here and have it live in the
Expressed.
whole body, and
Yeah.
to be driven and led by different things, and to think about how a character or even the same character in different moments might be leading with this versus this versus this, yeah, so
I
it's very
love that.
powerful. But for me, this is the kicker for the intellectual me, is for many many years in terms of like neurology and even psychology, and this is, I think, Descartes and philosophy, Descartes, Freud, even, that it's all about this. It's all up
Yeah.
here. It's all in your head, right? Almost as if the rest of our body is this kind of service vehicle for that. Or conversely, the rest of our body's fine. This thing is the curse that troubles us, right? But today, in contemporary, philosophy moved on a while ago. Well, not moved on. Some people moved on with ideas of phenomenology, that physical experience is knowledge, is understanding, that sort of thing. But in terms of neuropsychology, we now understand that there are three nervous systems, right? And this is my very basic kindergarten neuropsychology. The central nervous system, which
Yep.
is the brain and the spinal cord. The autonomic nervous system, fight or flight, and the enteric nervous system, the brain and the gut. And that's not a metaphor. The enteric nervous system is real, and all this stuff about gut health and so on is going. So it's almost as if the late Middle Ages, early modern people knew this, but without having studied brain cells. And then we got obsessed with the brain and ignored this. And now we're going, wait a second, there's not just one nervous system. And of course they interact. And you've got to make the vagus nerve that people are obsessed with now that kind of connects them all. So I love it because it does have some support in science. And that is that idea. And, the more it's, Freud actually said, Freud, love him or loathe him or both at the same time, said that there was nothing that he'd said that hadn't already been said by Shakespeare.
Oh, did he?
Just in a different, yeah, he did. And but Freud was whatever. And the more that I look into stuff like classical mythology, the Greco-Roman stuff, the Greeks, there's nothing that Shakespeare really said that hadn't been said by the Greeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they had a profound, but it was a different model. Their modeling was different. They had a profound understanding of human behavior and human psychology, and they just placed it out there with the gods, right? And then, in that early modern period, the Renaissance, we began to understand that, and humanism, that a lot of it was actually coming from in here. And then, with some of the scientific and Cartesian thinking and discoveries, we put it all here. We localized it. But I think we're coming round again to this idea that it's distributed.
Big thanks to Rob Pensilfini, Artistic Director of the Queensland Shakespeare Ensemble. Now, QSE do amazing work with Shakespeare, and you can learn a little bit more about that through the links in the description below. And down there will also be a link to the mini playlist of all the videos that I shot with Rob around aspects of Shakespeare. He is a wealth of knowledge, so definitely check that out. It would be great if you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't already, share it with someone who you think might need it. Thanks very much. Have a look at some of these other Shakespeare videos, and I will see you there.